Lieutenant Sherman and Allegheny County Homicide will be the lead agency in the investigation that's occurring. I'll give you a quick little history, and then we'll take a few questions. I misspoke here earlier, but at 7:33 p.m., Monroeville Police Department, our dispatch center, started receiving calls on the Monroeville Mall security radio that there had been a shooting at the Macy's, which is one of the anchor stores located in the Monroeville Mall complex at the Monroeville Mall. Officers responded immediately and came into the scene and had 3 victims that had been injured by gunshot wounds. 2 of the victims, well, 2 were males and 1 was a female. I'm not going to get into any particulars other than to say that 2 of the victims are critical, and one of the third victim is moderate or minor, I shouldn't say minor, moderate injuries, non-life-threatening injuries, I guess I should say. Those 3 individuals were all transported to Forbes Regional Hospital here in Monroeville, which is a region trauma center, and are being treated there currently. We, with the assistance of over 15 other agencies, secured the mall, closed it down with management, and totally searched the mall for the suspect that fled the area. What we'll give it, saying specifically, is that we are looking for a black male suspect in his late teens, approximately 5'7" in height, wearing dark clothing. He's light-skinned black male. We do have other leads that we're following currently, and that investigation is continuing at a pretty fast pace. The Monroeville Mall was shut down and evacuated and subsequently searched for the suspect. That took a little bit of time and necessitated the other mall or the other agencies in assisting us in doing that, because the Monroeville Mall is a relatively large area, as you're well aware. There were no other injuries besides the 3 people. We believe that one of those 3 people that were shot was a targeted individual. So this was not a random. We have evidence that leads to that. We're not going to discuss currently, and the investigation is ongoing. Take some questions.
Is it safe to say that the other 2 people who were shot were innocent bystanders?
Yes, it's safe to say that.
Chief, how many shots were fired? How many shell casings recovered? Can anybody know?
At minimum 2. Likely more, but at minimum we know there's 2 shots fired at this point.
If this was a targeted shooting, are you fairly comfortable with knowing who the suspect is at this point?
We're not going to speak to what we know about the suspect, if we know anything about the suspect.
Anything you could say about what led up to this? I mean, obviously, if it was targeted, they knew each other, had some kind of history, but anything you can say about what led up to this?
Obviously, that's one of the main aspects of any investigation, is determining what the motive is for any shooting. So that's one of the things that the investigators are doing right now.
What was the sex of the targeted individual?
I'm sorry?
What was the sex of the targeted individual?
The sex? The gender?
Male or female?
It was a male.
Are the victims cooperating, or is it too early to say that? And how about store security cameras you must be reviewing? That stuff?
Sure, that's one of the things we're doing as well.
And are they cooperating?
And we hope that will be a big help for us,
What kind of
this
weapon?
security video.
How about the cooperation
Of
of the victims? Is it too early for them to be
the
talking?
2 innocent victims, we don't believe were the intended targets. So there's not much they can...
Can we clarify in saying that the 3 victims were not necessarily associated with each other?
Correct.
So
Which of the victims is the most severely wounded? The target victim is critical, or?
Yes.
He hasn't been able to communicate?
Right.
Is he the one that was shot in the leg?
I don't know.
What weapon was used? Or what was the type of weapon?
I don't know.
Chief, obviously, I mean, this happened after the incident at the mall in December and the robberies that happened over in one day. Any thoughts about what can be done about security at the mall? Obviously, you guys changed things after the brawl, but anything moving forward that can be done to improve security?
Well, obviously, we're going to look at that. I mean, I have no comment now, but we've always been in cooperation with mall management as well as mall security. The Monroeville Mall security acted very good here. They acted appropriately. There were 2 officers working at detail that were in the mall when this happened. Monroeville had 2 officers on duty down there. So we've been doing that routinely throughout the years, and we'll continue to do that. We're certainly going to look at a higher or a larger police presence in that area. You know, from the response that I saw here, specifically the mutual aid response that we received here, it was second to none. We had people critically injured here that were transported and treated appropriately by both the Monroeville Fire Department EMS as well as the police officers initially on scene, preserved the scene. Certainly, we have leads that we think that we're going to be able to solve this, and it's going to move forward rather quickly.
Chief, to follow up, there was a substation at one point. Is that an active substation in the mall for you?
It's not staffed 24/7. It's not staffed during the open hours. It's not completely. It's staffed randomly, and it currently isn't open here. It's actually in the process of being remodeled.
I see. Is that something you review then?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to review it. We're going to review it a lot of things here. I mean, certainly this is. There's been a pattern here, as you guys are well aware, and it's continued to go. We're not really sure why that's occurring. And that's something we've been trying to look at social media and different intelligence gathering to find out why that's occurring. We don't know why the mall is having the problem that it's starting to have here. But if you remember, if you guys have been around long enough, look at Ralph here, back in the 90s we had that same issue. We had shootings down there, and that was associated with gangs and with drug activity. That went away when law enforcement made arrests, cleared organizations. Maybe that's coming back around, and we're certainly looking at that.
Is there been a warrant issued yet?
No,
Do you anticipate that tonight? or-
I can't speak to that.
These shootings happen right in Macy's, or like right outside, or where in
It was in the store,
inside?
and on
First floor, second
the lower level, correct, first.
Anything the public, I'm sure you've interviewed lots of witnesses there.
No, we haven't,
So you have
because they did such a diligent job clearing the place. We have no witnesses.
anything that the public can do? now?
Yes, please.
I mean, it's social media, because you talk about the last incident, cameras, everyone has a camera now. And there's probably, anyone has any info, just come forward, I guess.
Yes.
Can you address witnesses seeing this suspect fleeing, running, leaving? Did anybody see him leave?
Maybe I can address that. We certainly have people leaving the area that both mall security did see as well as other witnesses, and we have talked to those individuals.
Because this is live right now, could you just reiterate the description of that suspect that you guys are looking for right now?
Live.
What's that? Yeah.
Videos obviously we're going to, was a black male in his teens, later teens, 5'7" to 5'8", 5'9", we're in that 5'7" to 5'9" category, light-skinned black male, wearing black pants and had a black shirt with some type of writing on the front of it.
There were reports earlier that Forbes' ER was locked down for a time. Was that true?
That is true. Monroeville has a police presence there currently. Just did that as a matter of course because of multiple shooting victims coming into the facility, that's all.
Do you have any idea how close the three victims were to each other when the shooting took place? Were they all standing next to each other? Were they...
So we don't know that at the moment.
You haven't said anything about a motive, obviously, at this point. Robbery was not a motive here. Did you say that, or did I miss it?
We don't know what the motive is. That's something we're looking for.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time, everybody. Yep.